Welcome back to Tech Unpacked, episode 323. I'm Jenny, and with me as always is the one and only Mark, who I suspect has been secretly talking to AZI all week, given his excitement levels.
You know me too well, Jenny. I am talking to AI, just not secretly. Today, we're diving deep into something that's quietly transforming almost every digital interaction we have. Text-to-speech, or TTS technology as it's known. And folks, it's not the robotic voice from your old GPS anymore, not even close. We're talking significant advancements here. My research shows this market is just booming.
Booming indeed. The numbers in our prep research are pretty wild. We're looking at the TTS market nearly doubling from $4.76 billion this year to a projected $9.7 billion by 2029. That's a nearly 20% growth rate year over year. What's driving such massive growth, Mark, beyond just, our smart speakers talking back to us?
Oh man, this is the engaging part. Beyond the obvious rise of smart devices and voice assistants, it's a perfect storm of ACI advancements and real-world needs. Think about it. Remote work, e-learning. Suddenly, accessible content isn't just a nice-to-have, it's essential for everyone. Companies need to reach global audiences efficiently, and TTS makes that possible without hiring hundreds of voice actors for every language.
That makes sense. I remember when TTS sounded like a very monotone, rather emotionless computer. Are we really past that now? Can it do sarcasm yet?
We are beyond that, Jenny. That brings us to our second big point, the tech transformation, specifically Neural TTS. This is what's truly shifting the landscape. For years, TTS relied on something called concatenative TTS. Imagine someone recording thousands of single words, short phrases, and sounds, and then the computer stitched them together to form sentences. It was clunky, as you said.
Stitched speech. I love that. It explains precisely why it always sounded so unnatural, like a robot trying to read a story to a child.
Precisely. But then, around 2016, Google dropped WaveNet, and that started the current phase of the revolution. Neural TTS doesn't stitch anything together. It learns directly from massive amounts of human speech data, and then it creates speech from scratch. It generates natural pitch, intonation, and even emotional cues. It's like the AI doesn't just read the words, it understands the intent behind them.
Wow. So it's not just sounding like a human, it's delivering the message like a human? So can it do sarcasm times now?
Potentially. The gap between synthetic and human speech has shrunk by 50% in the last 5 years alone. Imagine that. This means we're almost at a point where discerning the difference is genuinely challenging. But there's a trade-off. Neural TTS is incredibly resource-heavy. It needs huge data sets, massive computing power, which can limit smaller players. And that leads us right into the ethical complexities.
The less sunny side of a convincing AI voice. The deepfake concern. We've talked about this before with images and video, but now voice? That feels more personal, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's precisely the same technology that allows a person with a degenerative disease to clone their own voice before they lose it. A truly beneficial and ethical application that also fuels deepfakes and potential scams. If an AI can convincingly mimic your voice, or a CEO's voice, imagine the implications for fraud or misinformation. It's a significant challenge, and frankly, industry standards for things like watermarking synthetic audio are still very much in development.
That's a bit unsettling, to say the least. But let's pull back to applications for a moment, because you mentioned how this technology is moving beyond just accessibility. Where are we seeing it make the biggest impact today?
Great question. Our third big point, compelling applications. Beyond accessibility, which remains a core benefit, TTS is significantly influencing many fields. Take e-learning. Duolingo, for example, integrated custom TTS voices with regional accents for over 30 languages. And it wasn't just, listen to the word. It provided context-aware pronunciation that adjusts based on sentence structure and formality. They saw a 27% boost in user engagement. It's a considerable jump.
27%. That's substantial for an education platform. And I can certainly see how regional accents are important for language learning. My French teacher sounded very different from my friend learning French in Quebec, and that could be confusing.
Exactly. And in healthcare, it's reducing strain. Hospitals using TTS for patient portals and medical documentation, time support calls from visually impaired patients by 40%. That's not just compliance, it's better patient care. Then there's customer service. Studies suggest emotionally nuanced TTS can lead to 15 to 20% more conversions compared to generic voices. People respond better to voices with genuine-sounding tone and empathy, even if artificial.
So, the robots are learning to be empathetic? Well, that's a progression, I suppose. What about areas we don't always think about, like entertainment?
Oh, that's a big one. Think video games, audiobooks, even platforms like TikTok. Artists and creators are using TTS for character voices, narration, or even just for viral memes that need a specific voice. The ability to generate unique, consistent character voices without hiring dozens of voice actors for every project is a huge cost and time saver. And for future frontiers, imagine real-time multilingual calls where your voice, your time's tone, is preserved across languages. That's impressive.
That's quite something. So, who are the big players in this space? Is it just the usual tech giants, or are there smaller, specialized companies making waves?
Our fourth point. David versus Goliath. You've got the Goliaths. Google Cloud text-to-speech with its industry-leading naturalness and emotional expressiveness due to WaveNet. Amazon Polly, which offers extensive language support and a wide range of specialized voice personas. And Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services, which is quite suitable for enterprise integration, especially if you're already operating within the Office 365 ecosystem. These three have really secured a significant share of the market due to their quality and scale.
So, the major cloud providers are dominant. Are there any Davids, the smaller innovators, making a splash against those tech behemoths?
Certainly, and they're specializing. We're seeing companies like LOVO AI focusing on voice personalization and cloning, Murph AI for individual creators and marketing teams, and ReadSpeaker, which has been in the accessibility space for a long time. They're finding niches where the giants sometimes move slower or cater less specifically. However, the pricing competition is significant. All the major players have moved to pay-as-you-go models with generous free tiers, which does make it more challenging for smaller, specialized vendors to compete directly. And you have emerging threats, like open-source TTS projects, which are also challenging paid platforms.
It sounds like a fascinating, rapidly evolving market. But let's dig into that ethical complexity a bit more. Beyond deepfakes, what other challenges do we need to consider as TTS becomes more sophisticated?
This is a critical discussion point, especially for the long term. The ability to clone a voice to genuinely help an ALS patient is remarkable. But, as we discussed, it's the exact same technology that allows someone to steal a politician's voice and create a fabricated speech. There are currently no widely accepted industry standards for watermarking synthetic audio. This is a significant gap, leaving us vulnerable to misinformation and fraud. It's truly a balancing act between innovation and security.
So how can we regulate something that's evolving so quickly without stifling the genuine, beneficial uses, like helping people with ALS maintain their ability to communicate?
That's the fundamental question. Regulators are often trying to catch up with the pace of technological development, but the future soundscapes are compelling. Hyper-personalization of synthetic voices. Imagine a TTS system that perfectly mirrors your time's vocal quirks, breathing rhythms, every nuance. This could advance accessibility even further. And then, there's the concept of emotional AI therapists, or real-time transcreation, for global events where not just words, but emotional context and tone are translated seamlessly across languages. The possibilities are vast.
A personalized voice that sounds exactly like me. That sounds rather convenient, but also a little unsettling, doesn't it? What if it gets used for something I don't approve of? This makes me think about your point on privacy and cloud-based solutions, too. I mean, cloud TTS dominates because of cost and scalability, but sectors like healthcare still need on-premise solutions for security, right? Because they can't risk a breach.
Precisely. The privacy tax is a real consideration. HIPAA and GDPR compliance mean that some industries, especially in healthcare and finance, require on-premise solutions, or at least highly secure private cloud environments, even if it's more expensive or less scalable. No amount of natural-sounding AI is worth a data breach in those sectors.
It's a key tension in the market, one that often gets overlooked in the rush for innovation.
It seems the future of TTS is clearly bright, but also fraught with these ethical and regulatory challenges. And let's not forget the impact on human professionals. If TTS can generate voices with such emotional nuance, how does that affect the voice acting industry? It's a valid concern?
That's a very fair point, Jenny. While TTS offers cost-effectiveness and scalability, particularly for non-creative or mundane tasks, many argue that synthetic voices can sometimes lack the subtle nuances, improvisational qualities, and deep cultural sensitivity that real human voice actors bring. Think about storytelling, for instance, or highly expressive characters in animation or games. Some listener surveys, particularly for audiobooks, still show a preference for human narration for truly immersive emotional experiences. The human voice has an artistry that AI, sophisticated as it is, might struggle to fully replicate in certain contexts. It's less about replacement and more about how these tools will redefine the roles and opportunities for human talent, perhaps freeing them for more creative, high-impact work.
That makes sense. It's not a direct one-to-one replacement, but rather a reshaping of the landscape. So what's your final thought, Mark? What should our listeners take away from all this, considering both the advancements and these nuanced challenges?
My takeaway is this. TTS is no longer just a utility. It's a powerful tool shaping how we interact with technology and each other. The growth is evident, driven by impressive AI advancements. But with that power comes significant responsibility and ethical considerations. As consumers and as an industry, we need to champion the beneficial uses, demand robust security, and engage actively in the conversation about regulation and the role of human artistry. Because the voices of the future, they're being generated as we speak, in many forms.
A very thoughtful note to end on, Mark. It's clear that text-to-speech is far more than just converting words. It's about amplifying connection, information, and yes, sometimes, even challenging our understanding of truth itself and the value of human performance. Thank you, Mark. This has been fascinating.
My pleasure, Jenny. Always good to unpack the tech with you, especially when it sparks such important conversations.
And thank you for listening to Tech Unpacked. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into the world of technology. Until then, stay curious.